Hey everyone, Pastor Justin here. So we're ending our series, Making Change. And today I have an awesome special guest today that's going to help me. As you know, I'm not into finances at all. Like my wife actually does it at our home, right? But I can give you biblical principles on this. And so I thought one of the best ways to end this series would actually be to go to people who know this stuff. And today I have a very special guest with me today, an awesome Congregation Street member, but I'll let her introduce herself. So who are you?
Hi everyone, I'm Tara McClary. I am an assistant vice president at Amica Insurance, so I'm well versed with some insurance policies and insurance matters.
Wonderful. No, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we're talking this, we now 4 principles: less is more, stress is bad, giving is good, and now tomorrow matters. And I thought Tara would be absolutely amazing to talk to us about why tomorrow matters. We talk about investments, but in this case, especially insurance. And so, Sister Tara, what are some necessary insurance policies that you feel that every person needs to have?
I have to say one of the first ones is car insurance. If you drive a car, you need car insurance. Don't play the game of getting the insurance just to register it and letting it lapse. It serves a very valid purpose. Even when your car is in an accident and it's in the shop and you're not driving it, you're still getting benefits from that insurance policy. So you definitely want a car insurance policy that has liability coverage. That's the bare minimum, because if you cause an accident, you want to be covered to some extent. I won't suggest limits because that's kind of very personal, but you want liability insurance. Depending on the type of car you have, you want to make sure you have collision coverage or OTC or comprehensive coverage, because if you can't afford to replace your vehicle on your own, you're going to want to use somebody else's money and just pay a $500 or $1,000 deductible. And then the policies usually come with, in Rhode Island, it's called medical payments coverage. If you buy up, sometimes it's built in like $5,000, but that helps you if you get in a car accident and you're injured. You have a little bit of money to pay for some bills. So if you don't have health coverage, this will kick in. It's for you, anyone in your car. They have access to that money if they go to the hospital or the doctor as a result of the accident. And then there's rental car coverage if you can buy it on there. So that provides a lot of coverage. There is an optional coverage that I strongly suggest people buy. It's called uninsured or underinsured coverage, because that will kick in if you get into a car accident with someone who isn't covered.
Oh, wow.
Now you have coverage on your own policy to cover that for yourself. And people don't know that.
Wow.
So that benefits you. And when you're not driving your car, if you get into an accident, you're hit by someone or you're hit as a pedestrian, you get access to your medical payments coverage under your policy. If you have that underinsured coverage, that will kick in for you as a pedestrian.
Oh, wow.
So those are some benefits. So when you're concerned about why am I paying insurance and I'm not driving it, now you know.
Wow.
Let's see, other insurance I think is necessary is homeowners insurance, home or renters. If you're a renter, I know you may think you don't have a lot of stuff, but you think that until you have to replace your stuff and you realize, wow, I had a lot of stuff, or the little I had was valuable, was worth a lot. So you want to have renter's insurance that covers your personal belongings. If you're young, in college, the most important thing to you is what? Your laptop and your cell phone, right? There are some carriers that offer some policies that may cover just the basic necessities.
Wow. So
you don't have to have a full renters if you're really just concerned about that. Side note, college kids, you're still covered under your parents' policy too. So if something happens, someone raids your dorm room, call mom and dad. If they have coverage on their home where you are, they can call their homeowner's policy.
That's something I wish I knew. So my apartment got ransacked in college once, right? And they didn't had a deductible that was astronomical. Because I just ran and got insurance because I got an apartment by myself for the first time. But I didn't know that part, right? And so I got this really cheap computer. My mom got so mad because I didn't want to tell her I got ransacked when she came to visit. And so that's a very, very real and true thing. Most definitely. Most definitely.
I have to add a caveat to that though.
What?
You have to be a college student that still lives with your parents. So if you have your own apartment, you do need your own insurance.
Got it.
So that was good that you did.
Okay. Well,
that was good.
I did something right. My mom still got mad at me that I didn't tell her. But no, that's really awesome. So tell me a little bit about life insurance, right? So I'm reading a lot about term life and whole life.
Okay.
Now, what are the differences? Because one blog says don't do this, do this. Another blog says don't do this, do this. And another one says get both, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to be financially strong and wise, whole life versus term life, what are the differences between those two?
Wow, that's a good question. The whole life policy is used really it has a benefit of not only saving up so that if something happens to you, there'll be some money to pay a beneficiary, but it also accrues value. So over time, let's say you get a whole life policy worth $50,000. Depending on the time, it's usually about maybe 50 or 100 years, whatever it is, whatever the term is for that policy. At the end of that, if you don't die, they'll give you that money.
Got it.
And over the course of time, it accrues. So at year 10, if you surrender it, you could probably get, $3,000 for it. So it almost acts as like a savings account, some sort of savings that you can cash in if you need it and get some value. And if not, then you can ride it out. If you don't die, you'll get that full face value.
Okay.
Or if something happens, then that money goes to someone. So that's the benefit of a whole life policy. It has a higher premium because obviously there's more tangible benefits to it. Whereas a term life policy is what we're usually more familiar with. It's like 30 years. If you die during this period, this is the money that will be given to your beneficiary. If you don't die, well, then you've had that peace of mind for 30 years if you die.
Got it. Okay. That's helpful.
The deciding which one works for you really depends on what season you are in your life.
Got it.
When you first start out with insurance, when you think about life insurance, I think the best thing is think about where you are, because life insurance is really meant to cover your expenses for when you die, so your family doesn't have to have that burden.
So speaking of, we do not do GoFundMe for funerals, right? There's no GoFundMe for funerals. We have benevolence to help offset those costs and all that type of stuff, but this is the reason why we don't do GoFundMe for funerals.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so if you don't have any dependents, life insurance may not be as necessary because there's no one that's really going to inherit that stuff. But when you have a spouse or a child, you can consider it because you want to make sure that if something happens to you, that they can satisfy any debts and not have to worry about that. And they can bury you or whatever you decide to do. But when you get to a point where you have a house, you've got a spouse, you've got children or dependents that are relying on your salary in order to maintain a certain lifestyle, you definitely want to look at life insurance at that point, because if something happens to you, the whole family is going to have to change their entire lifestyle and not be able to manage whatever else they need to do. One thing I will add is if you're employed with an employer that offers group life insurance, look into that, because sometimes they're really good policies, like multiple times your salary, and you're paying a small amount out of your paycheck every month, every paycheck, or not even, maybe it's free for the company. But that's an added benefit of giving you some life insurance without you having to pay for a policy.
That's wonderful.
And some of those benefits extend beyond your career with the employer. It might drastically reduce, but it's still a benefit. Just remember, life insurance is not meant for you to leave a whirlwind of money for people that you believe, you want to leave rich, right? I say that jokingly because when I got insurance at 22, 23, I was like, I need this because if something happens to me, I need to make sure my mom's taken care of, my dad's taken care of, my sister. I got like multiple policies. I was spending this money and it was like, well, I didn't even have that much debt. So this was literally just money they would get.
Wow.
And then I was like, I got my husband who was like, let's take a look at this. And I was like, you are right.
Wow.
So,
That's awesome.
Remember, it's not to leave a whirlwind of money for everyone. It's meant to cover your expenses.
Got it. That's
that
helpful.
You might leave.
Let me ask this too, because one thing this wasn't on the list.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've been hearing a lot about is so when you go speak to whether it's an insurance agent or a financial advisor, what are some characteristics of the individuals that we go speak to that can, I guess, take off the stigmas of purchasing insurance or in getting investments even in terms of salespeople as well, because I what I feel and what I sense in the questions I get are about I'm just afraid I'm going to get duped. I'm afraid that I'm just paying XYZ. And while that stuff is real, and movies don't do a very good job of portraying people that work in insurance and investments well, what are some characteristics or words that we ought to listen to if I were to go to talk to an insurance salesperson or agent about renters, car, life, anything like that I should listen for, that they're going to have my best interest in mind?
That is a good question. I've not had to deal with an agent myself before, but I know the stigma that just the insurance industry has, almost like attorneys. It's like, we're out to take your money and give you nothing. And if you can believe me, please know that insurance companies would love to give you every dime you want, because it would make the transaction easier.
Sure.
You'd be a happier customer.
Wow.
We're not out to take your money and not give you anything. We just need to be able to give it back to you in accordance to the promise and the guidelines that we made. So it's not about us taking your money. And if you pay premium all this time and you get in an accident, you want your fair share. Well, your fair share is what you're owed plus your deductible. That the sad thing is that's what it is. But we definitely aren't out to scam you or take your money. We do want to pay you what you deserve for whatever's been damaged, whether it's bodily injury, your personal property, your car. When you are thinking about an agent, or when you're working through an agent, it's best to get different comparisons, different quotes, and make sure you're comparing apples to apples, because sometimes agents talk fast and you don't know what they're saying, and they tell you one thing, oh, your quote would be this, and you go somewhere else and tell you a quote, but you don't know what you're comparing.
Got it.
So definitely take the time and get a printout. Ask them for a sample deck page or sample outline so that you can shop around. Every carrier nowadays wants you to.
That's good.
Because it helps them sell that they're worth the money that you're going to be paying.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to put this in there. Question about retirement.
Retirement is a really big deal. And I know for the younger generation, you're like, I'm going to be working for the next 60 years. But trust me, it goes by in the blink of an eye. So if you have an opportunity to start putting away in a 401k, a Roth, or something, do it, and do it immediately. So you never see the money. It automatically goes there. And don't touch it. Do it, a 1% increase. If your company is matching it, do the minimum of what the company matches.
Wow.
Just build that up. And as you get older, closer to retirement, you can look and see if you want to change anything. But it's better to start earlier, because you have a lot of windfall, a lot of tailwind to build it up, than to be close and be like, oh, I'm not sure. And now I've got to pray to win the lotto. It definitely is a good way to start to set yourself up. And relieve a lot of pressure down the road. And that you can access that money during different times for different things. You can use it to buy your first house. You can use it to buy a second home. You can pay yourself back. I would never suggest you take a withdrawal from it, because there are penalties, but you can borrow and pay yourself back.
Wow.
So definitely invest in 401s, IRAs, I forget what other retirement vehicles there are.
No, thank you. So there's two types of ways to make money. People making money, going to work, and then your money making money. You want your money to work for you. Remember, we tell our money what to do. Our money doesn't tell us what to do. So the last thing I would ask is there any advice you would give? At our church, because you come every week, we have 6 generations every Sunday in the pews, from kids all the way down to 1 or 2 years old to people in their 90s. And so what would be some advice you would give people as they're preparing for tomorrow, whether that's tomorrow preparing to have children, purchasing a home, getting a car, or even preparation to go on to glory? What would be some financial advice you would give them?
I would advise you to, at every season, take a minute to pause and see where you are, what you may need, and don't hesitate to talk to others who are either where you are or have been where you are, because they have a wealth of knowledge. For example, the Metzes, Gil and I learn a lot from the Metzes. They don't know that, but we know, we're like, oh my gosh, we need to talk about this, we need to talk about this, just from things we hear the Metzes say, and we're like, oh. but they're farther along, and they've already been our age. They've been with children. We haven't gotten there yet, so we'll learn from them, and from you guys, we'll be like, oh, what do we see Courtney and Justin do with Cam? But definitely pause and look into your resources. Don't be isolated. There's a lot of information you can learn from others, and seek it out and apply it to the best of your ability.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. So yes, as you guys know, we're ending this series now, but this doesn't end it. I wanted to give these principles to you very simply, very bluntly as well, that you can apply these long-term as well. Now, online on our website, there's a whole bunch of different resources. There's budgeting sheets for our less is more, stress is bad, and giving is good time. There's information on tithing, questions to answer, like what is it, how do you do it, what is gross, net, all that stuff, all on our website on our resources page. Go there, search giving, and all this stuff comes up. And also this video as well with some information on different insurance, retirement, all of that on our website too. So thank you, Tara. I really appreciate it, and God bless you all. Have a good one.